my dead body of a comics fit. At least we'll have lots of laughs and wit. Outside the not so pearly white gates, it's closer to a dirty shade of gray. There's nothing to eat, there's nothing to drink, no need for restrooms, no need to sleep. I'm not gonna lie, it's terrible out here. I give anything for a drag. Just one drag, just one drink. How the hell did all my friends get into heaven? They're not gonna let me into heaven. They're not gonna let me into heaven. They're not gonna let me into heaven. They're not gonna let me into.
Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, I'm better than Leonard Cohen. I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
I win that actually against Leonard Cohen now just by default. Because I'm still alive.
Right, so. Accurate. First and foremost.
Last Cohen standing.
First and foremost, allow me to thank Grassroots Kava House for the kava that I drank on this and every episode of The Muddied Waters of Freedom.
And allow me to thank Kroger for the beautiful, purified Kroger-flavored drinking water that I drink on this and did most of the episodes of The Muddied Waters of Freedom. Bulavanaka.
Also, allow us to thank Hot Damn Burnett for allowing us to use their music at the beginning and the end of this episode.
Thanks, Hot Damn Burnett.
I'm wearing your shirt.
And it is Burnett. I kept correcting it, or I thought correcting it to brunette. Whenever you would in the captions, and I put no, it's brunette, and then and I kept saying I need to remind Matt that brunette is spelled B-R-U, and then I looked it up and I was wrong.
Yeah, because his last name is Burnett. It's Bo Burnett. Yep.
That makes much more sense.
It does.
So thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad you're feeling better. You were sick last week.
I was sick last week.
It was a huge news week, and you were sick.
The biggest news, of course, being that I was sick.
Right. I mean, that if I had done the solo show, that's all I would have talked about.
It's how I was sick. Yeah, no, I know. And I appreciate it. That's why we didn't do the show, because I didn't want it to end up just being you talking about the fact that I was sick.
Right.
Because that's really my news story.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I it was weird because I didn't do my episode either. It was a spikeless week.
I didn't do mine because the day that I was supposed to do the show, my guest called me and said she was also sick, and I was like, She's in Hawaii, so there's like this time gap. She's what, 6 hours?
Quite a time gap. Yeah,
she's 6 hours behind. So
right.
She let me know like 2 hours before the show, and I was like, I'm not even going to attempt to find a replacement.
That's negative 4 hours before the show.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not.
The show already started.
Right. I was like, I'm not even going to bother. But yeah, so it was a light week for the Muddied Waters Media last week.
Yeah. Light Muddied Waters week. Yeah, I mean, it's that time of year, right? Like everyone gets sick, but when the host gets sick, then that means there aren't any shows. Right. But this is when one of the bigger networks would have someone like us come in to fill in, but we don't have an us yet.
Right. We don't.
We're working on the us.
That's right. We're just kind of working to become the us right now for a bigger network, so that way we can.
One day, guys, we'll be filling in when someone else is sick.
That's right. Somebody will
the
call.
More people are sick, better our odds are.
That's right.
In the meantime, we'll be here.
Right.
So
doing this for you, our faithful audience,
our faithful, loving audience. Thank you for joining us again.
Yes. Thank you to everybody who constantly watches us.
Speaking of people that you love in the hospital, I actually wasn't in the hospital. No, I was briefly in the hospital.
You were briefly in
the hospital. That was a planned thing. But speaking of that, and I was also north of where I live in North Carolina. So speaking of being north of in a hospital that's north of us, Rand Paul.
Guys.
Rand Paul.
Good old
Ron Paul Light. Good old Ron Paul Light.
My driving buddy, as I like to call him. The guy that calls me for the guy that calls me for rides.
Not calls you for rides, and then you talk about Yemen.
Yes, we talk about Yemen a lot,
all the time. He went to Canada for hernia surgery, and I think it's related to
the attack
when he was attacked over the lawn or whatever around the debris. And so he went to Canada for hernia surgery at a place called Shouldice Hospital.
Is it
Shouldice Hospital?
I kept pronouncing it should ice. Like, you should ice that. Like, that's the should ice Hospital.
Surrounded by ice, of course.
Of course, because it's in a third world nation.
So it's one of seven private hospitals in Canada, this is near and dear to me because the area we live in, the main hospital is also a private hospital where we have a home in Toronto. But it's one of the 7 private hospitals in Canada. It was grandfathered in. It's a privately owned hospital. Obviously, most of the patients are socialized healthcare patients by virtue of the fact that Canada has monopolized basic health insurance there. But it is a private, for-profit hospital. Rand Paul paid out of pocket for hernia surgery, and for the people that there were 2 groups of people that got worked up about this. One was basically the entire left who saw Rand Paul healthcare and hospital in a sentence together and decided not to go any further. And the second group was people that didn't read past the headlines.
Right.
And those were the 2 groups that said, wait a second, Rand Paul said he's against socialized health care.
Why is he going to Canada where there's socialized health care?
That's not right. And it turns out, no, he paid out of pocket. It went into someone else's pocket. If we're going to argue semantics about, most of their patients are, on socialized health care, that's probably true of American hospitals too, because of Medicare and Medicaid. So,
yeah. And,
okay, great.
Well, so this is a for-profit hospital. It is a private hospital. It's not completely funded through the socialist healthcare of Canada. But so, like, Rand Paul deciding to go there to get this hernia surgery done, and paying cash for it, is not people are saying that him going there is really hypocritical of him because he's so against socialist healthcare. But him actually deciding to go there is not, because it is a world-renowned hospital. It is a private hospital, so they can probably pay people what they should be paid. They aren't going to be as restricted as the socialist hospitals are on regulations and such. So they're more wide open to be able to act as a free market hospital.
Right. For those that are paying out of pocket,
right,
obviously they have to follow the
rules.
OHIP. So for Ontario, it would be called OHIP, the Ontario Health Insurance Program.
Right.
But, they'd have to follow OHIP rules and Health Canada regulations or whatever. But he's paying out of pocket. He's not even a Canadian. So
right.
When I'm in Toronto, I go to a doctor and they have to dust off their credit card, their credit card receiver terminal thing that they never use and try to figure out how to work it. And I pay out of pocket. And then I get reimbursed by my insurance company once I submit that. But I'm not helping socialize healthcare when I do that. I'm in Canada. I need a doctor. I go to the doctor. It's like anything else. You go if you visit California, which now has single payer for California residents, and you use their system and you pay for it, you're not demonstrating that socialized healthcare system works. You're doing just the opposite. You're demonstrating that the closest thing that we're allowed to have to market healthcare works better. So it was weird that they chose that hill, but I do think it was that people jumped on the headlines and thought that they were dunking on Senator Paul.
Yeah.
Turns out, no, not so much. And in fact, you put this in the notes, and it was in the back of my head. So, the former NDP, New Democratic Party leader, Jack Layton, who, if you follow Canadian politics, Jack Layton is like revered as a god, especially now that he's dead. And he really wasn't. But anyway, he was the chairman of the NDP, which was to the left of the Liberal Party. So he would be like the he'd be like the Bernie Sanders of the U.S. of Canada, basically. Okay. He was the head. I would say that's pretty close comparison. And he got a lot of criticism. This was like 10 years? Yeah, 2006. He went to the private clinic. He went to it was Schuldeis?
I don't know. That's just the way I've been pronouncing it because that's how it's spelled.
No, but it's the same one that he went to?
Yeah. No, he went to the same one.
Yeah, so this was a guy who was all about socialized healthcare. He wanted to expand it even more in Canada than it currently is. He wanted it to cover dental. He wanted it to cover chiropractic. He wanted it to cover everything. So, by the way, side note, little known fact, Canada's healthcare system is only certain degrees more socialist than ours. So the U.S. government pays something like 60 cents on every dollar that's spent on healthcare in the U.S. The Canadian government spends like 71 or 73%. So it's obviously further along, but it's not like, here everyone has to pay out of pocket and they're paying for 100%. They're just paying for more of the stuff. Right. But anyway, so he wanted it to be basically 100% that they were paying for. And then it turned out especially when he was sick, he was going there because he had cancer. He was going to a private clinic there, and he got a bunch of criticism for that. But that was an actual example of hypocrisy because, he didn't want any kind of private healthcare at all. He didn't want any profit motive whatsoever. Rand Paul was pretty much sticking to his gun. Really, the only criticism you could give to Rand Paul is that technically he was using tax dollars because his salary is for being a senator.
Yeah, I mean, unless... I mean, I know what he gets paid for speaking engagements, so...
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, he actually, yeah.
Yeah, he does speaking engagements and then his, PAC events and stuff where that's not tax dollars. So...
That's a good point.
Right. So
but that probably paid for his airfare.
Right.
Probably got a discount or something.
Some part of taxpayer...
Hypocrite?
Some part of taxpayer money got Rand Paul traveling.
Something happened there that had to do with... I can feel it. I can feel
I know.
He betrayed us all.
He did. He betrayed every one of us.
I'm so sickened, Rand Paul. How dare you? I know, now I get why that guy attacked you.
Attacked you while you were taking care of your lawn.
Your lawn.
While you were mowing your lawn and raking leaves or whatever it was you were doing that day.
I bet you rake leaves like a jerk.
You pile sticks in the back like a jerk, Rand Paul.
All judgy.
You are a worse travesty than 9/11.
Yes, you are definitely. By the way, we're against 9/11.
We are against 9/11.
At Mighty Waters Media, we're strongly against.
We are strongly against 9/11.
Any kind of we're against 9/11. We're not against the date 9/11. I mean, look, every year we're going to have a 9/11.
Every year we're going to have to hear politicians talk about how the world changed on 9/11.
On 9/11. Sometimes just by saying
9/11.
9/11.
9/11.
We're against the specific. Guys, if you remember, we talked about the actor Jeffrey Rush.
Oh yeah, down the middle or down
and then to the cross,
and
the
then
breastplate.
Across. Yeah, he went down and then across.
He went down and across the breastplate
while trying to help a woman up, and then he texted her winky, tongue out face.
Right. Yes. So we're against that as well, but we're also against when planes go down and through the building.
The buildings. Yeah, when the planes go through the steel beams of buildings, we're against that.
We're against that.
Very much
against and we are anti that. And speaking of Rand Paul, we're in favor of Rand Paul going to Canada. How do we? We're against 9/11.
Mm-hmm. We are against 9/11 and other tragedies like 9/11.
And anything similar. I'm going to let you lead for a moment. I'm not sure how we got there.
I don't know how we got there either. No. Speaking of travesties in New York.
Whoa! How was... Go ahead. No, go ahead. I don't want to steal your thunder. That was good.
Thanks. I just took what the softball was that you gave me.
That was amazing.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is stating that he is refusing to sign the state's budget, which I don't know how state government's different from federal government. I don't know if this means that the New York government is going to shut down or can't imagine how I can imagine the U.S. government shutting down much quicker than the New York.
The New York government? Yeah, no,
that'd be like the California government shutting down. Like that would
be devastating.
That would be devastating to so many people. Unlike the 800,000 people who are out of work because... But he is refusing to sign the budget until the Reproductive Health Act passes and through the chambers up there in New York.
Reproductive Health Act, that sounds healthy. Matt, what's that?
That is, so apparently New York has not updated their abortion laws since, we can roughly say, before Roe versus Wade. So there are a lot of laws that they haven't had in there.
Right.
Some would argue laws you don't need. Some would argue that. I've got a couple of problems with a couple of the things that they are enacting. They are going to be legalizing late-term abortions for people with health exemptions. Now, these health exemptions for these late-term abortions would include age, economic, social, and emotional factors.
So pretty much anything.
So pretty much no health reasons whatsoever were
those don't sound like health. Maybe you could argue emotional.
You could argue age.
Health related.
You could argue age.
The rest of them are inarguably not health related.
Not health related. And as to the length of these late-term abortions, it's up to birth. And not only that, and this is where I truly have, I don't agree with that even a little bit.
Right.
But where I really start to have an issue with this is that the bill, the Reproductive Health Act, would allow... Man, I messed that. I don't even know what I typed there. And allow doctors. Okay. Yeah,
eight term.
8-term abortions. Doctors who disagree with this for moral or religious reasons cannot choose not to do them.
They cannot not abort.
Right. They have to abort up to birth, according to this bill, if the people say that they want one.
Right. So I'm not sure if we've ever. You and Muhammad may have.
We covered it really early on.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever really talked about abortion on the show. And it's I mean, it's a very sticky subject, right? Like, it's a very sensitive subject, and even amongst libertarians, it's very sensitive.
They don't even know.
Yeah,
it's almost 50-50.
Because it comes down to whether, in many ways, it comes down to whether you think the fetus, baby, whatever, is a life or not.
Right.
So if you think it's a clump of cells, then, it's no different than, well, you can't say circumcision because a lot of libertarians are against that too.
Right.
So, because libertarians are fun.
Because libertarians,
having an appendix removed or, whatever, a tumor removed or whatever, that it's just as, it's her body and she's the only body involved. Whereas if you think it is a life, then now it's no longer just her decision. It's now also, there's a baby involved and a human being involved. Up until birth, I would imagine that we could all agree that if we're talking to, let's say, a day or so before birth, this is now a human being that just hasn't left the birth canal, gone through the birth canal, or been C-sectioned or whatever. We're not talking this abstract, newly fertilized egg that's become a zygote or whatever, or a fetus that's in that stage where it may or may not have a heartbeat or brain activity or whatever, where it's still not really, it's definitely not its own autonomous creature yet, or I guess many would argue it's not yet. Many would argue that it is. When we're talking like it would cry right now if it were outside,
right?
That you kind of lost me there, and even worse, to say that a doctor, it's one thing to say, okay, that's allowed, okay, but to say to every medical professional in the state, you have to do it. You have to do it.
You have to do it. You have no choice. That's where I mean, like you said, like
every libertarian would be against that.
I would hope so. And like you said, this is a really sensitive subject, and it's one that we pretty much stay away from.
Of all things.
I know.
Not rape.
No, we talk about rape, which we're very much against rape.
Very much against rape, and we talk about it every single
episode. We talk about rape.
In depth.
Yes.
Abortion, no. That shows how much of a third rail
I came up with a great joke earlier today about Bill Clinton and Podesta. And then I was like, man, we've been hitting the rape too hard. I can't make that joke on the show. And
you could back off on the rape.
Right. And even though
we did 9/11 instead.
Right. We did 9/11 instead. And we still won't talk about abortion because of like how sensitive it is. But
that is how sensitive it is.
But I would like to think that, I mean, there is the great Seinfeld episode from years past, which they probably stole from Spike.
Almost assuredly.
Almost assuredly, where the joke was, it's a pizza when you put your hands in the dough. No, it's not a pizza until it comes out of the oven. And that was the argument. And that they were trying, it was the pro-life, pro-choice argument, except they were doing it with pizza. Now, it's not a pizza when you pull it out of the oven. It's definitely a pizza before it's done cooking to whatever temperature you have it. Like it's
a pizza when you've put the thing in to pull it out of the oven. You just haven't pulled it out of the oven yet, and you've told the person doing it that they have to throw it in the trash.
Right.
Which I wouldn't go to a pizzeria like that.
No, I would not go to a pizzeria.
Where's my pizza, guy?
I want my pizza.
Why's my pizza in the trash?
But like that is basically where they have lined this up on, is like, oh, it's not a baby until it comes out of you. So anytime before that. And that is just, it's not right.
That's not right. And again, even if you're, because there are a lot, I know all the different libertarian types, and there's a libertarian type that's like, you don't have any rights. You only have what you don't have any rights that are intrinsic to your being. You only have what you can defend or whatever. The egoists and the which has a lot of nihilism built into it. There is no inherent value to life and things like that. Okay, great. How about the part where they're forcing adults to do it? That alone should be enough for libertarians to be against.
Right.
Which is, it should be enough to not stop it anyway. But I guess I can't see. I can't see someone who, because I've never, you meet these people that are pro-choice and pro-abortion, and they say, I'm not pro-abortion. I'm just in favor of the woman having the right to choose. All right.
Okay.
What about this one?
Right.
Because this isn't the woman's right to choose. This is everyone's right to say, nah, that's a baby. That is actually a baby. That's a legit, straight up, ready to come out, could come out now with no problems, baby. And I don't want to kill that baby.
Right.
I'm not ready to abort, to terminate the existence of that specific fetus. I'm not with you there. And the law says, no, you have to do that, or you would, I guess, face penalties, lose your medical license, whatever. So one of our commenters, Shane Sweeney with the South Carolina Libertarian Party, shout out to the SCLP, says, I don't know what the solution to abortion is, but I know government being involved in any way is a mistake. This would be a perfect example of that, Shane.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Accurate. I mean, this is as involved as the government can get.
This is pretty damn involved, yeah.
Like, they're basically making it illegal for a doctor to be pro-life.
Yes. This would be like the flip side of this on the pro-life side would be it being illegal to pull out, or like you can't use birth control or a condom. This is the other extreme of that, is like you have
if
to
they
kill
ever
the
made
baby.
it illegal to use a condom, I would be so happy.
Honey, look,
it's against the law, sweetie.
it's against the law, honey. I don't need any more charges.
Don't want to go to jail.
I'm just trying to keep clean. I'm just trying to keep my record clean, sweetie.
I've got 2 strikes against me already.
I'm not trying to go back.
I'm not getting a third one for
I'm
no
not
condom.
going back. That would be a pro-life victory
That would
for
be
everyone.
a pro-life victory all around.
So yeah, no, this is like the flip side of that is, yeah, no, you have to kill that baby. Like, I don't want to kill that baby.
I don't
you
want
gotta
to kill it. Yeah, but
you got to
have
kill that baby. So.
On the flip side, Florida is kind of going the opposite direction. Right here in the grand old state of the Sunshine State of Florida.
Sunshine State.
Yep. They are attempting to pass a bill that would prohibit all abortions past the time that a heartbeat is heard.
So is it like they'd have to do a ultrasound, and if they could hear a heartbeat, then they can't do it?
Yep. I did a quick skim of the bill. I didn't like fully go in depth in it, but
Right.
that's basically what it seemed like. Is you would be like, hey, I want to get an abortion, and you would go in, and they would do an ultrasound, and if they hear the heartbeat, they would say, sorry, you can't.
I'm curious about enforceability. So if you're at a place that makes money from abortions,
Right.
is that like tapped into a state database where they're listening to, or you have to bring a clear tape of no heartbeat, or is it random? Are they gonna have sting operations where someone comes disguised as a pregnant woman and she actually has a little clock inside of a little ticking clock? Yeah. And if they go, I don't hear that. Like, you don't hear the ticking? No, I don't hear anything.
I don't hear anything. You're fine.
Well, you're under arrest.
You're either that, or like they'll investigate people and they'll be like, well, let's hear the tapes, and it'll be like whitewater all over again. It'll be like 18 minutes of missing, 18 minutes of missing tape. Yeah.
Heartbeat redaction.
Right.
Yeah. So that'd be my first. I mean, look, I'm an anarchist. So when people say, should the government ban whatever, it's like the government shouldn't exist, much less be banning anything. this comes down to, I always equate things to how would things work in a voluntary society. And I think something like abortion is going to be decided by families and communities, what they could, what their standard is going to be. For something like this, it comes down more to this, I guess, more of an abstract, or not abstract, but more of a broader idea of what is life. I think it's a much better argument to say that because ultimately, if it's okay to kill something, it means it's not a human life yet, presumably. I think the argument for it's a human life once its heart starts beating, I think you got a much better argument there than it's a human life because it hasn't been birthed yet.
Right. Like
it's right there, but its date hasn't come. Her water hasn't broken yet, so that's not a birth yet until it's not a birth until we cut its umbilical cord or whatever whatever stipulation they use. Because there's the partial birth abortions where the baby's so large that they actually have to partially deliver the baby so that they can decapitate it, which is always fun. So I mean, yeah, I don't know where I stand on, when it would be considered a interminable human life. I can tell you I'm much closer to heartbeat than I am to ready to come out baby.
Oh yeah, easily. If it's between the two, I am much closer to the
heartbeat.
Florida's suggested legislation as opposed to the New York forced legislation.
Right. So the legislation that the governor's threatening to shut the state down over.
Right.
So I mean, at the moment of conception, that zygote fetus, whatever you want to call it, has its own DNA already. It's already its own separate being, quote unquote.
Right.
It comes down to a question of, is that a being that we're ready to say you can't, nothing can happen to it. You have to do your absolute best to make sure that it stays alive. I think for many communities, the answer to that would be absolutely yes. And I think for many communities, it would be like, no, of course not. Which is why I think those answers need to be handled at a much less centralized. It shouldn't be a state deciding this. It should be like families and individuals and the affected parties and communities involved, not like a Capitol building in a large geographical area that doesn't share a lot of characteristics within it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but again, it's a really sensitive subject. That
it is an incredibly sensitive subject.
That the gentleman from Steve, was his name Steve? I don't have the thing pulled up.
Shane. Yes.
Shane. That Shane is. Yeah, I don't think the government should be involved.
No, it should definitely not be involved. And these are perfect examples of that.
Right.
So,
speaking of Florida, though. Speaking of Florida,
tell us about Florida because I'm. Oh yeah. Go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Florida,
Governor Ron, newly minted Governor Ron DeSantis,
come from behind victory, Ron DeSantis.
Which, if you all were watching the Election Day special, Electopolis, whatever,
Electopocalypse.
That's what we called it. We called that win first. We were the first news source to call that win.
Weeks or days? How long did it take for that?
It was like a week and a half. Yeah, it was like
we called that. We went to bed that night. Said that's for Ron DeSantis.
Yes,
and everyone else. We're not ready to call it. And we would occasionally check in and say, Ron DeSantis has won this election. And they go, no, well, there's some outstanding. We go, no. Ron DeSantis won this election.
Ron DeSantis won. During the next election, we're actually just going to be sending messages to the main guys so that they know who wins.
Oh, yeah, no, we should definitely... They need to pipe into us because we nailed 100% the trailers that, went on for, Kemp versus Abrams.
Yeah.
And Gillum versus DeSantis. And...
Scott
versus
Nelson. Arizona. I will say, I think Arizona we got wrong.
But I also wasn't terribly committed to that one.
No, That one was really like I don't even think we ever called that one. We just said that she's in the lead.
We said she was in the lead,
Right.
but it was also when we signed out, it was also trailing somewhat. But you know what? I'll take that loss if it means saying that we were 3 for 4.
Right. If we were 75%, we're doing.
We were doing good, and yeah, we were not nearly as committed to saying like this is over. Like those 3, we signed out 4+ hours into that show. If you want to watch a show that goes on for 4 hours plus, that would be the one to do.
4 hours and 7 minutes, and then it's just going to abruptly end on you.
Yep. It's going to abruptly end because Facebook has a real strict limit on 4 hours.
Yep.
So you have to watch the YouTube if you want to get that last 7 minutes, which is the sweetest part. Us scrambling to figure out why we're not on Facebook anymore.
What just
but
happened?
what we took away from that, we ended that saying Ron DeSantis is the governor, will be the governor elect.
Yep.
Brian Kemp will be the governor elect in Georgia, and
Rick
Scott, not Bill Nelson, will be the new
Senate elect.
Yeah, but is it junior? It's a junior senator of the state of Florida.
Yep.
And everyone was like, "No, we gotta wait for the provision." No. We nailed it.
We know.
We nailed it, and we said this is outside of the margin of what
any
recounts and provisional. It's outside of it, and they have won it straight up. And it doesn't matter what's her name, Brenda Snipes.
Brenda Snipes.
What she does.
Yes.
Her machinations don't matter.
The formerly employed Brenda Snipes.
Former Brenda Snipes.
Well, she's still Brenda Snipes.
I don't know what her name is now, but whatever her name is now, God with you. God be with you. But we nailed it. The point of all that is that Governor Ron DeSantis, speaking of which, did something, Matt.
So he's actually done a lot of things. Rick Scott, right before he left, did a lot of like last minute, what do they call them? The midnight appointees.
Right.
Yeah, he fired all of them. He fired all of them.
Which is a solid move when you consider that they're both Republicans.
Right. But what he really did that was really special to many people is that he pardoned the Groveland Four. Mm-hmm. And the Groveland Four made up of Charles Greenlee, Walter Irvin, Samuel Shepard, and Ernest Thomas. And they were 4 black teenagers back 70 years ago, 1949.
Yeah, 1949.
1949.
70 to the year.
Yeah. Who were convicted, who were falsely accused and convicted of raping a white woman. There was no evidence of it.
Yeah.
There was no evidence of it. There was no eyewitnesses to it. Like everything about it was just complete hearsay. The articles that I read, I didn't even see anything where she said it happened. It's just, they were just like, nope, this happened and we're going to put you four in jail.
And
probably using very colorful language that would get us kicked off of Facebook.
Yeah, which we're not going to use.
Right.
We're done that. We know the lines to cross on Facebook.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was terrible because they were falsely accused. There was no evidence, and during the course of their trying to appeal this, one of them got killed on the way to the court, where and the sheriff said that the sheriff that shot one of them said, "Oh, they tried to run away." He actually shot them both. One of them died, the other one didn't, and said, "We did not try to run away. They just shot us for no reason." And they were 2 of them died during the course of this, and then the other 2 died later on in life.
Ernest Thomas, he was the one that 1,000 men hunted him down and shot him like 100 times.
Yeah, 400 times they shot him.
400.
Yeah, he was shot 400 times. Because they found him guilty and then basically let the mob out loose on them. And it was just absolutely atrocious. And there was never any actual evidence. I do want to say that the 17-year-old was saying that they did it. I think so, because I want to say, and maybe I'm making this up, that more recently when they had, an appeal board or something look at it, that the lady who's now at that time was 86 or 84 or whatever was insisting that it really happened. And that everyone was, but then someone had what they said was a letter from the niece, from her niece, saying that she had confessed to her that it wasn't true or something like that. But the bottom line is, and again, this is going back to, like with the Kavanaugh thing. If you don't have evidence that something happened, then it may have happened. But if you don't have evidence of it, just an accusation is not enough, because if it is, then something like this can happen. This is a perfect example of what can happen when the fact that someone said something happened is enough to convict. And so yes, Governor Ron DeSantis, did he pardon or give them? Well, I guess it's not clemency. They're dead. So right. he officially pardoned them. It's off their record, right. And said that, their history, I forget how he worded it, but basically they were given a really raw deal by the state of Florida, and it's never too late to do the right thing. And that he's at least correcting that terrible moment in history.
What I did notice today when I did the notes is that the photographs that I inserted into the notes did not transfer over when I sent them through Facebook, because I was reading that and I was thinking, yep, he said, oops, that picture is gone. But yeah, he said something, it's never too long to right some wrongs. We wish that we could have done it. We wish we could have done it earlier. Something along those lines.
Right. And this was obviously before he was even born, but you know.
And
he's fixed it. So, well, he fixed it as much as he can. Right. Everyone involved.
He did He did what needed to be done. Right. And you got to respect that, because those four were not guilty of this crime. An FBI criminal forensic guy showed up and said, no, this isn't right. And they retried him, and then they found him guilty again at one point for one of the gentlemen that was convicted. I don't remember which one, but
again, with no evidence.
But with no evidence. With somebody saying, with an FBI guy saying, there is no evidence here that says that they did this, you shouldn't have convicted them. They convicted them again.
They still convicted them. Right. Yeah, and I mean, that tells you about the tone of Florida at the time.
Right, it's 1949 in Florida.
Yeah, you take an all-white jury and put a black person in front of them and say, this person's been accused of this. And they go, okay, well, let's kill him then. Right. And that's, that was the problem. And so he fixed this, proving again that he is the racist white supremacist that his opponent Andrew Gillum said he was.
Yep. Because he hates all of the minorities all the minorities
are in danger of being pardoned by him.
Right. They're all in danger of being pardoned.
He's gonna shoot him with a pardon.
It's very true.
So speaking of government disagreement, yeah.
Sure. Why not?
So we are in the guys, if you're watching this and you still have running water and you still have power and you still can go and your roads haven't disappeared and disintegrated into the sky, count your blessings, because we are in the longest federal government shutdown in the history of America. Is that correct?
In the history of America.
The history of the entirety of the United States of America.
We beat the record that was held by Clinton. 1995, 21 days.
We're 4 days past.
We are 4 days past.
What was previously the longest shutdown in history.
That's right.
There are all sorts of people not being paid.
4 days ago, Trump was running around the White House lawn blasting "We Are the Champions."
Yes.
Flying flags of freedom.
With this government shutdown, yes.
Shirtless.
Yes, he is completely. The White House is essentially a large trailer park now, which I'm actually 100% okay with without reservation. The Coast Guard is now no longer being paid. TSA, the thousands standing around, they're not being paid.
Yep. FBI, CIA, they're
no longer being paid.
No longer being paid.
There are now airport delays, and in fact, either part or all of Houston Airport shut down or was shut down briefly because of TSA walkouts. TSA is refusing to stand around and randomly grope people until they get their pay.
Right.
Here's my thing. there's a lot of things I want to say, but the main thing I want to say is that there's no good reason for the federal government to be involved in anything, but especially security-related stuff, and TSA is a perfect example of that. There's a legit need to screen, to some extent, people and things that are coming onto airplanes because, as 9/11 showed us, never again, that, hashtag never again, that if you have a gigantic flying vessel that weighs hundreds of tons, I don't know, weighs a whole lot, and it's filled with flammable liquids, and it's also careening in the sky just below the speed of sound, you gotta secure that a little bit.
Right.
And the federal government's answer to that is, okay, we're going to take a bunch of police academy rejects and we're going to give them sweeping abilities to victimize you every time you try to get onto a plane. And also, you got to take your shoes off.
Yeah, they really ran with that one, and
that was a bit,
and it hasn't gotten better from.
It is not.
From the time that they enacted that in late 2001 to now, some would argue it's only gotten worse.
Oh, it's definitely gotten worse.
Because now you have to take your shoes off because one guy put matches in his shoes or something. I don't really remember.
It's only gotten more draconian, and with every Freedom of Information Act request where they have to release showing that they've not stopped anyone, no, they have not successfully stopped a single terrorist attack.
Right.
Nothing, no one has tried this. And what they have done is made life harder for 100% of people getting on airplanes, which is hundreds of millions of people a year. And they've stopped a lot of like victimless stuff, like, someone carrying weed in his pocket or, stuff, or, someone who has, I don't know.
Even worse than that. Like there's that meme that's going around where it's like, 6 months ago, I don't care if your grandmother made you that soup and told you to take it home with you, throw it away. Now they want our sympathy. Like,
oh yeah, no, that
like they're people
even
who
less so than the FBI. Am I likely to give a TSA agent sympaty right now?
Right.
Like zero. You know what, you schmucks? What you did? Now I'm calling people schmucks.
You are
serious now.
It's getting real serious up in here.
It's getting out of hand now. We might get shut down soon, guys. Sorry. I had a. This is the dumbest story that I will tell within the next 10 minutes, minimum. When I went to camp, a girl that I liked gave me a toenail clipper, which is incredibly random, but she did. And it's just a toenail clipper, and I still have it, I think. No, I don't have it anymore, but I used to have it, and it was kind of important to me. Like, oh, this girl that I liked gave me this toenail clipper, and I needed it. Which is why she gave it to me. Right. And so I'm going through, and they pull. I was like, I don't know, 15 something at the time, and I'm traveling somewhere with my mom, and they pull us to the side and go, "Oh, we found a blade on you." And we both look at each other, we're not blade carriers. And I said, "That's not pot." And so they pull out this toenail clipper, and they go, "It's got a blade that comes out."
I almost cursed. The nail file thingy?
It's the thing that you put under. I didn't even know what it was. It was the guy that told me. So just to show how stupid this was, this TSA agent said, I don't even know what that is. He said, "It's the part you put up under your toenail to get the toe jam out." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "So we gotta destroy this thing. Or we gotta take it from you." And I said, "Well, it's very important to me." And he just kind of looked at me like, "Why is it important?" So I explained this to him, and he looked at me probably like our audience is looking at me right now.
Right.
And after I explained why it was important to me, and he said, "Well, I'm going to have to destroy the blade." So he's yanking at the thing, and thankfully he pulls it off. He goes, "Oh, you're not going to be able to get your toe jam anymore." I said, "I didn't even know it was there. Thank you. Can I have my thing back?" And it never quite worked the same because he kind of
messed it up.
Yeah, he kind of, whatever. So he kept America safe from my toe jam. He said it was too long. It was like that long. It was maybe an inch long. And that's what they do all day long is stupid crap. And then stupid and inadvisable crap. So no one in security would tell you. So for example, sorry, ma'am, you can't have that shampoo bottle. That could be a liquid explosive that could kill us all. Now go put it in this trash can directly next to me and in front of this giant line of hundreds of people.
Yep.
Where it will stay all day long.
With all of the other potential explosives.
With all of the other bombs that your ISIS Confederates have been handing us all day long.
Right.
Let's make a super bomb of bombs right here at the headquarters of TSA for this part of the airport with all of our most sensitive and expensive equipment, not to mention the hundreds of people that are right here and the thousands nearby. Just put it there because it's obviously a threat. That's how not seriously they take their own crap. And it's truly just a way to make your life harder. I truly believe the TSA was intended solely to condition people with the idea that anytime you do anything where you're around any number of people for any period of time, you have to go through this ridiculously draconian set of rules and standards that make zero sense in some kind of Kafka-esque nightmare scenario solely because you have to. If you want to get on the plane, you got to, do the hokey pokey in front of us while we cradle your genitals.
Right. And I will say, like, one of the dumbest ones that they do, like, it's all dumb. But one of the ones that I don't get is you buy something at duty free and you get out of the plane and you're like, you buy something duty free in Costa Rica, which I'm only going to use that because I've been there. And then you get to Miami.
Shout out to Costa Rica.
Woohoo. Pura vida. But you get to Miami and you come back, you go through customs and they're like, okay, yeah, you're fine. You can go through. And you're like, great. And then you got to go back through security and whatever you bought at duty free, you have to throw away because you can't bring it through security, even though you bought it at an airport.
You bought it at the airport.
And that's where real heroes step up. And if I still drank...
you who bought this thing that has already been cleared by some form of security.
Right. You purchased this in the airport, so we know it's fine.
In the green zone. I'm choosing to call it at the moment. In the secure area. You have to now give that up because we said so to that. And just to one of our commenters, Nicole Beard, who said, you blade carrier, you damn right. I'm a thug and I don't care who knows. She said, you can carry matches on flights, which never made sense to me. So you can't have shampoo. Your shampoo bomb, Adam says, chug the whole bottle. Yes.
Yep, that's where I was getting. It's
chug that shampoo.
Once
look them in the eye when you do it. And just let them know.
When you buy it at duty free and they're like, sorry, you have to get rid of that. Actually, I haven't had a drink in 4.5 years now. But if I purchased something from a foreign country and they did that to me, I would be blackout on the next one because I'd be like, yeah, all right, 4.5 years sobriety, don't care. I would open that thing right there. Principle. Yeah, I would open it right there and I would drink the entire bottle right in front of them and probably vomit copiously.
I would meet you in Florida to go to your AA meeting to say, he did the damn right thing there, guys. He's right back on the wagon. That was a blow for freedom.
Yes.
So, and I'd start the applause.
Yeah.
And I dare anyone not to join me. But yes, so you can carry matches.
But you
which
can't
actually literally create flame. And if you take
you can't carry a Zippo.
Can't bring a Zippo.
You can, as long as it doesn't have any fluid in it. I found that out one time, even though it was minimal fluid. Because same story, a girl had given me a Zippo that I carried with me everywhere. It had a really old painting on it, and I thought it was really cool, and so she bought it for me. So I carried it with me everywhere, and there wasn't much fluid left in it, but there was enough for apparently one strike, and that was when the TSA guy had it, and he said,
chug it.
Yeah, I should have just chugged the entire bottle of Zippo.
It's not going to kill you. You'll just be really sick. You're just like...
Yeah, I'll probably vomit. But, yeah. So I had to...
But you can take match... Sorry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then he told me that I had to either mail it back home, which, again, now you are sending it through the mail.
The mail!
Or I had to check it and send it home that way. And I was like, well, I'm not checking a Zippo. Like, that's so stupid.
It is so stupid. But mail it.
Right.
This bomb, this obvious bomb that we have to stop you from just living your life because this might kill everyone here.
At the time,
just
I was
mail
like,
it instead.
At the time, I was like, 5'9", 130 pounds or something like that. It's like, yeah, this very pale white boy that is coming onto this plane with his dad, who just screams nothing but patriotic America. This is the one that you're like, sorry, you can't bring that.
This is the one.
Hey,
this is the one.
White privilege is bull crap.
Yeah, this guy fully exercising his white privilege, and you're going to give him a hard time for his Zippo, which is the lighter of the preferred white privilege lighter.
Right.
I would say. But I just want to address the matches. Nicole, thank you for joining us. And I want to address the matches because this is something that you could make a sort of niche bomb out of, right? So if you have a large enough pack of matches, you can light that match and then take it to the box. And there's some actual match explosion stuff happening. It's not going to down the plane, but if you're, you take that and you have a bunch of toilet paper around, I mean, like, you could actually, this is something you could do a thing with and cause actual damage with if you were so inclined.
Right.
And no one has. Because no one is so inclined.
No.
No one is that. No. So, like, it's just the stupidest thing on earth. That's just so stupid.
I love watching you get flustered. It's so funny.
I'm very flustered. I'm very flustered. Because what if someone were to, oh, you mean these matches? And then you'd set it and you throw it into the thing full of shampoo bombs and everyone's dead. And now what, guys?
Now everything's up in flames. All of TPA is up in flames. That part of the Houston airport is gonzo. Right.
You should have just let it on the plane, because then that would just be one plane. I mean, let's. I'm not saying, like, okay, we're going back to the when can you kill babies thing. When can you kill passengers? This is definitely going to get me in trouble. But let's don't kill any passengers.
Right. You
is basically what I want to start with.
Basically, we here at the
Muddied Waters Media
do not condone the killing of any passengers on any plane.
Dead set against killing anyone.
Yes.
But in this case, passengers on a plane. I just am talking the sheer, just numbers, okay? What's worse? I am getting a visit. What is worse? I have to start. I have to go because I started.
You started.
Matt does not agree with any of this. What is worse? You get your shampoo bomb and you get on the plane. The plane blows up, kills 250 people. That's a terrible tragedy. Or my shampoo bomb blows up in the airport, killing 1,000 people.
It's
why?
Jesus Christ. I mean,
they're both bad things.
They're both bad. They are both bad.
I need to dial this back for a moment. I want to just pedal back. I want to circle back to my original point. These are all bad things.
We don't want any of these things to happen.
This is day 25 of the government shutdown.
Is the FCC even? Are we even being monitored?
Oh, you know what? It's an anarchy now on the internet.
Pure anarchy everywhere right now.
Everyone. What the state police are still operating though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they are.
Just for anyone who may be questioned, just remember. Always bad. All of these things are bad. We were talking about like a situational awareness. This is about situational awareness that these are all bad things. The TSA is not doing a good job at this, is my overarching point here.
And yet, during this government shutdown, they're remarkably doing just as well.
Who's that?
The TSA.
TSA, yeah. TSA is
the only thing that's
continuing their 0% success rate.
Yeah, there's 0% success rate. All they're doing now is making people late for their flights.
Longer than they usually do.
Right,
Now, here's where it's getting scary. I hope you didn't want to go north anytime soon.
This is actually quite terrifying.
So this is some shit. I don't know what this even means. But
that is the first time you have cursed on the show.
Possibly. This is. I don't even know what does this even mean. So the government shutdown is screwing up north.
It's screwing up north. Just the direction
of north.
The direction of So I actually did you read this? Did you read that article?
I did not. I didn't get past the headline.
Okay, so true north is always moving. Like it's constantly moving.
Okay.
It has been forever, and it kind of goes in a roundabout circle. It kind of goes in a roundabout circle and south kind of does basically the exact opposite one, or mirrored, or however you want to put it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, good.
So it constantly moves, but because of this government shutdown, the national scientists who check out where true north is, which I'm assuming is their cabinet position.
It's a high level position.
It's a high level position.
Checking for north.
They are no longer looking for north. So nobody is marking where it has moved to day. So planes are flying without knowing where north is.
There's no other interested party,
right?
That could be checking for north.
Right. Why is this a government-funded person? Like, why is this not privately funded by, I don't know, an airline or, sea captains?
I want to know where north is. I'll pay $5 into that GoFundMe. Like, can we find out where
my
north
phone
is?
Seems to still know where north is. Like, if I open I'm going to open the compass right now, which will possibly be the first time I've ever done that.
Where north is.
This is the first time I have ever opened the compass on my. Yeah, no, it 100% knows where north is. It is directly behind me. Wait, right?
Where is north?
Yeah, I think that's right. Right? Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, directly behind me is definitely north, and that is where I'm 179. I'm facing 179 degrees south right now.
What direction am I facing?
But my phone knows where north is.
It's not helping.
So who is telling?
Give it a moment to figure that out. But north should be like look. A compass is like so. Is this not simple enough to use a compass?
Right?
Is the compass not tracking north sufficiently?
I mean, it's the flat Earth theory. I don't know. None of this.
This is the thing. The government is no longer around to lie to us about north.
Yep. So obviously,
government shutdown day 30. The turtle peeks its head above the horizon.
Above the horizon, because we are no longer paying the people to
keep the turtle's head down.
The turtle's head down.
There's an entire government agency that just turtle's like, I want to see the people. No. Everything's fine.
No, they're fine.
The people need to know.
No. We told them we're on a globe.
It's okay. Everything's fine. You just keep resting. I just want to make sure everything's because the turtle cares, guys.
Right. The turtle definitely cares.
The turtle cares about us, and this whole north thing is perfect proof of that.
Right. And now, because of this government shutdown, the whole globe thing is just going to get blown right out.
With that, okay, so I don't for a second think the earth is flat. I just love how I wish it was. And the reason is because the people that get the most upset at someone saying, even jokingly, that the earth is flat are invariably the most smug people on earth.
Right.
Well, the earth is a globe and you haven't heard of gravity, you loser. Like, I want the earth to be flat just because of the people who would be the most befuddled by that. Right. So could Trump actually could shut down bring about the reality that the government has been hiding with its true north crap, and that really the only true north is the turtle looking up.
Yep. Because we're constantly moving up on the back of the turtle.
We're constantly up
No,
to the shell of the turtle.
Back into. So I know you and I are both part of a flat Earth group.
I'm part of many flat Earth.
Are you? Yeah, I'm part of Flat Earth No Trolls. And
No trolls. Yes,
yes.
the flat Earth group. No troll.
Yeah.
I'm on the cutting edge of flat Earth.
Yes, I'm in the No Trolls group.
Just the No Trolls group is kind of the entry level normie flat. I'm in the flat Earth theorizing group where they try to figure out the finer parts of why their theories don't quite work, and how to figure that out. I'm in a biblical one where they are trying to use Old Testament scripture to help kind of figure out some of the
push
finer
home
points.
Yeah, I was the other day, because Flat Earth No Trolls is some of the best bathroom reading there is. Truly, like.
Oh yeah, if you have to poop.
Great 10, 15 minute that you got brewing inside of you, like go over to Flat Earth No Trolls and check out everything going on there.
I'll have to remember that,
Yeah. But I was going through and they were picking and choosing their terms from the Bible very carefully to make complete sentences. And
yeah. That's very common.
To prove that the earth was flat. But my favorite thing that they had was a meme, and it said, "How to know you're dealing with a globetard." Which would be most of us, I believe.
A globetard.
A globetard. I believe most of our viewers are globetards.
I would imagine.
I hope. Anyway, and it had a list of things, and one of them said, "Tries to troll you even though you don't care." That was one of the things on the list of things that globetards do. In a group called Flat Earth No Trolls, where in the in the pinned post it says, "If you troll us, we will kick you out."
Yeah, no, they are not. They don't like that.
They no. My good friend Joe Fairbotham was in that group for one day
because he was a troll. They said no troll. Look, here's the thing: free association. They said right off the bat, no trolls.
Yep.
By the way, I'm copy pasting this story about North in every flat Earth group.
Yes, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Shut down. They can't hide the truth anymore.
That's a good call.
I am doing this a lot. I mean, a lot of them. So I'm still listening. But I just want to.
Yes.
I want to hit the main ones, and then I'll circle back later and hit the other 15 that I'm in. And now the flat Earth experts. That's the big one. The
flat Earth experts will be very happy that the government is shut down now, even though many of them may not be getting their checks.
Speaking of flat Earth experts, food stamps are about to hit the old chopping block, and no doubt a few flat Earth experts may be knocked down in that terrible nightmare. So it's what is it? The end of February or beginning of February? There will no longer be enough money to keep the SNAP program, the food stamps program, going as is. They'd have to make some adjustments. Some states have already said we'll make up the difference to the extent that we can. But if it goes through February, there will be exactly $0 left in the SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program fund. And if you want to see, I don't know how heavy food stamp use is in your area, Matt, but I live in Horry County, South Carolina.
I would imagine that it's pretty high here.
Yeah. I'm in a county where it's going to be an interesting setup if food stamps truly run out. That's going to be, I'm going to probably take a little vacation.
That's probably not. Yeah,
you go north, but I'll head west.
Where I am is geographically located in an economic area that is surrounded by other economic areas where some would say that the SNAP program is regularly used.
Particular individuals
who happen to live in these areas.
Particular individuals in specific economic regions.
Right. So there is a good chance that if by the end of February the SNAP program has not been funded, I will not be. I mean, if they come to my house, I'll give them whatever I have because they probably have more than me. But
they got more food than you right now. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
The few particular individuals I know who are in economic areas and are using the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, their fridges were chock full, straight up full of food, which, I mean, I guess it's working. Their SN has been efficiently aid. Yes. And my SN is aid at, when I pay for it. But anyway, so yeah, it will be going to see a few ticks down on that obesity index.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has been a show that I'm no doubt there's no way any of this will come back to haunt me
at all. Ever.
Especially if I ever run for office. Definitely not.
No, this show may preclude both of us from ever running from office.
Just the one thing I want to know, guys, is Matt is painfully against a good solid 65% of what I've said on this episode.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. So
Sure.
so just this is a me thing. Don't drag Matt. And then even for don't drag Muhammad. Really, no one. Don't drag anyone that has had anything to do with this show into the things that I've said, including me. So that's what'll happen there.
Speaking of questionable things being said that may preclude people from office in the future.
Well, there's still shutdown stuff though.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
damn it.
Our president.
Oh, you're
Donald.
Yeah.
What does J stand for?
I'm gonna guess
J. Trump.
I think it's Joseph.
Okay, Donald J. Trump, Joseph possibly Trump, he hosted a get together with the Clemson University football team who had just won the national championship, NCAA championship.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they'd beat the NAACP in football too. I'll put money on that.
Oh, it's John. Nicole Beard says it's John.
Donald John Trump.
Don John Trump.
Don John Trump. Good old Don Juan de Trumpo.
Yep.
Had the Clemson players at the White House where he served them a lot of fast food.
Lots of
Big
fast
Macs
food.
and chicken tenders, nuggets, I don't know, chicken strips, I think.
He went to
fries and
Burger King, Wendy's, and McDonald's.
And side salads and soda, which is how he kind of eats anyway.
Right, that's his diet.
So that was like his dream. Like even if the government wasn't shut down, that's how he'd serve. So he served them that, which is it? So I've heard that it was what they asked for. Is that true or is that
okay? So I've heard that when they inquired as to what kind of food they like, that was the majority of what they answered.
Okay, all right. So regardless,
not that they asked for it. It's just they were like, "Hey, what kind of food do you guys like?" And it's like, "Oh, well, I don't know. I eat Baconators or whatever."
Because I'm a college kid.
Because I'm a college kid.
Because I'm a college kid. So he has this, and so you're in the White House, whatever, and he's got a picture of Lincoln, be a oil painting of Lincoln, painted by someone who was actually painting Lincoln in person, no doubt. I just made that up, but I'm sure it's true. He's got the gold candelabras and plates, and he's serving. I love the photos. He's sitting there with this giant, billion-dollar smile on his face,
hands out, like he's the second coming of Christ.
Behold, thousands of dollars worth of fast food. Look at it. I did this, guys. Here's what I like about Donald John Trump. Not many things. One of the things I like is that one of the hardest things for an anarchist to deal with is the fact that the majority of people have this concept of the sanctity of government. And they'll say things like respect for the office and the decorum that comes with the office of being in charge of robbing and threatening to murder everyone, which is really what their job is. Their job is especially as president, is to carry out the diktat of the Congress to rob everyone, to murder whoever gets involved, including people in other countries, and to basically use intimidation and fear to keep up everyone into a level of compliance that looks like normalcy. It's like you abuse someone so bad that you don't even have to act mean to them anymore because they just know what's coming if you even move your hand, and it looks like stability and normalcy. So people talk about this, we have to review the reverence for the office. I remember people were so mad that Obama put his shoes on the desk. Yeah, that's our desk. It's the Resolute desk. And Donald Trump, because he cares about nothing. He'd do it in a church. He goes in the White House.
I'm certain that's not the only thing he would do in a church.
He would do anything in a church.
He would do things in a church worse than I've done in a church.
He would do things that are even worse than what I've said on this show, and which is bad. That's bad. And it's pretty bad. And he's sitting there with freaking Big Macs, and he doesn't give a crap, and it's like someone walked into the temple of the cult of statism and is just trashing everything. He's just trashing everything. I don't know what I just did there. He's just trashing everything, and I love every second of it.
Yeah, my favorite. Thanks, Nicole.
I saw that.
My favorite part of the entire thing is when they walk in and it's this buffet of trans fats and just everything that the government, especially the last administration, has said, do not eat this.
Right. Like government shutdown, day 24.
Yeah.
Eat fast food exclusively in the White House.
And then he comes out and he says, I bought this myself because, well, it was either I went out and I got this food for you, or the first lady had to go and make salads. Okay.
Because that was definitely what was going to happen.
Right, because Melania Trump was going to run down to the old kitchen, the old kitchen there in the White House, and start doing some whipping together some salads out of the old iceberg lettuce.
Right, exactly.
Because it's not romaine.
Chopping up big heads of lettuce because all the shoppers are gone too. All the people that get the food are gone. We're going to start chopping up. Look, this shutdown has affected him 0% because he's a billionaire who eats McDonald's every day. Right. So he doesn't give a crap about any of that. And listen, I don't care if they wanted it or not. You're at the White House. You just won the freaking, big game. You're all going to end up in the NFL more than likely anyway. So, I mean, this is whatever. You'll probably be there again soon when you win again next year. But again, I don't like Trump. I don't like the vast majority of his policies. I like that he has shut down most of the government, or a large, I guess not most, a large part of, he's shut down pretty much all the government that he's incapable of shutting down. And he has so far, and a growing amount every day. And he has also just trashed any smithereen of a concept of this idea of government being even the least bit respectable. This would be like if the Pope just started, walking around naked in the Vatican and, flipping people off or something like that. And just completely, trashing. And I'm not saying, the Vatican is an actual religion, the Catholic Church, but it would be like that, except he's doing that for this cult mentality of, the government. If we don't have the government, how will we have roads? And, it's a society. It's the taxes are the prices we pay to live in a civilized society. Oh, yeah, well, here's a billionaire who you hate running the show and making a mockery of the entire thing, and you're still fine, because the reality is you don't need any of it. So that is the thing that I love the most. So when people right now are trying to make me hate Donald Trump because he has shut down the government and is serving Burger King to people and, shutting stuff down and making the entire thing look like a giant white trash nightmare, I'm like, stop making me like Donald Trump.
Stop
trying to make me like this guy, because you're doing a great. He's not making me like him.
No.
You talking about all the things he's doing is making me really like try to not hate him.
So a callback to the last episode that we did.
Yes.
We placed some bets.
Oh, we did play some bets. Have any of those matured yet?
We're on day 25, correct?
Oh, what did we say?
We said 32. You said 32, and I said 31. I don't think we're right.
I don't either.
I don't think we're right. I think it's going longer.
Now we had based that
on when
we had based that on when the veterans
will lose
benefits.
Pay.
But I don't know, man.
I honestly think that the Dodge drafting president who says that he loves the country will
Cadet Bone Spurs,
Private Bone Spur. He is going to give as heartfelt of a speech as he can to the veterans and say that if the Democrats are the ones that are keeping you from getting your pay because they don't care about the security of our nation like they don't care about you.
I can see him doing that.
Yep.
And I could see a good chunk of veterans agreeing with him. I think it'll hurt. If you want to see Trump's popularity go into the high 30s, I think continuing it will be a good way to do that. But the longer this goes on, the more likely I am to think that you're right, and this is just going to continue.
I think it may go a long time.
It might go a really, really long time, and the longer it goes on, the more people see like government is not only unnecessary, but they've intertwined themselves in the things that we don't really need them for, like North. Here's a bet. I'll just say it. If the government, if it turns out that the earth is flat, then
I was about to start writing something down.
Mark this down, America. If it turns out the earth is flat, then I think government's days are numbered.
Oh yeah.
Make everyone question everything.
Yeah, if it turns out that the earth is flat, it will be complete anarchy.
It will be actual anarchy, and it will be
the anarchy you see in the movies, not what anarchy would probably actually be like.
Yeah, no, it'll be like Mad Max anarchy. But I'll find a strange calm, because if when I see the turtle
pop its head,
when I see that turtle look at me and give me his little wink to humanity,
hello,
I'm gonna know it's gonna all be okay, because that turtle's seen worse, guys. That turtle has seen a lot worse.
That turtle has been around for somewhere between 5,000
and 4.5 billion years.
4.5 billion years.
And I'll tell you something, if the turtle's real, then it's a lot closer to 5,000, guys.
Sure.
If that's where we're going, if we're in turtle land, then I'm going to guess that the Bible is the entirety of the Earth's history.
Yep.
And there's a few other things there, too, because the turtle will have seen the flood.
Yes.
He will have seen the
giants.
giants.
The fall of Sodom and Gomorrah.
He saw the fall of Sodom and Gomorrah. He saw when people were actually turning to sodium chloride. He saw a lot. So he's not scared of any government shutdown.
That's why you don't look back in anger.
What, when the turtle looks back?
No.
Oh, you mean the salt thing?
The salt thing.
Yeah, no.
That's what the entire Oasis song was about. Don't look back in anger is you'll turn to salt, so don't.
Is that what that's about?
No.
Good. Good. If the earth is flat, that's what that song is.
Yeah, if the earth is flat, that
write that one down.
Right.
So that's my bet for this week.
If it turns out the earth is flat, we're gonna have anarchy in America. Yeah.
In our time.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
Sure.
Those things are equally likely.
I won't tell you that that's wrong.
Why would you? What would be the point? So Yeah, so that's what that is. I think we've thoroughly exhausted this thing. Speaking of when Matt said earlier, people saying questionable things like I am at the moment, Steve King.
Representative Steve King.
Representative of an area in Iowa.
Yep.
The Iowa something numbered district.
Sure.
He said in an interview, and he disputes that he meant it this way, but he said something along the lines of, he said, white nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization, how did that language become offensive? And it's been understood that he was asking how all three of those terms, when they became offensive, meaning when was white nationalism and white supremacy offensive, which would be quite a question to ask. And he's saying, no, what I was saying was what's wrong with the term Western civilization? I'm not a white nationalist or a white supremacist. I'm just a nationalist, which
right.
is, I mean, most Republicans are nationalists at this point. So that wouldn't be a big, in fact, didn't Trump say I'm a nationalist?
Yeah. Yeah. So what his direct quote that he tweeted out today, after he got censured, right? He got censured.
Yeah, he was censured and he was removed from all of his committee posts.
Yeah. Yeah, he said, in a 56-minute interview, we discussed the changing use of language in political discourse. We discussed the worn-out label racist and my observation that other slanderous labels have been increasingly assigned to conservatives by the left who injected into our current political dialogue such terms as Nazi, fascist, white nationalist, white supremacist. Then he says there was a beat, or a pause for anybody who isn't familiar.
Right.
And this is Western civilization. How did that language become offensive? Just referring to the Western civilization.
Okay.
Now,
he has made some other questionable things. I usually, when someone comes right out and says I'm completely against what they're saying I was in favor of, and here's what I meant, I tend to side with them, because why would you come out so forcefully if you thought these things? He has said some other questionable stuff before. He said something along the lines of, in referring to immigration, he said we can't build a future with other people's children, or how can we build a future with other people's children, which is, if we're the people, how are they other people's children? And then there have been a couple other things that he's done. So he has kind of a history of he'll like say something and then walk it back. Even still, I would love to hear the audio of this interview, because I think that would, like, hearing it would truly answer this question of, because if it's one of those where he said, because if someone transcripted this show, first of all, I'd be in jail. But if someone transcripted this show,
I get it, because like if it was a 56-minute interview,
yeah,
our shows are always at least
56 minutes,
at least 56 minutes
minimum.
And we normally say one thing on there that could land us in some sort of legal trouble, and we're not senators or congressmen.
We say things that within context could get us in trouble.
Right.
I mean, if you do the out of context stuff, you could make us out to be all sorts of horrible things. But I'm someone who will sometimes make disjointed statements. So I'll say something, and then I'll just start interjecting something else. And in hearing it, you'd totally get what I was saying. If it were just written out in such a way that the punctuation was moved around, it could sound like a completely different thing or look like a completely different thing. So I would be interested to hear what he had to say. That said, there's no love lost for Steve King. Steve King is a hardcore, nationalist at home and neocon abroad. There isn't a government action against people that he isn't in favor of. So, I mean, live by the sword, die by the sword. But the way that he so forcefully turned around and was like, white supremacy is bad, white nationalism is bad, I completely reject all of that. I'm a nationalist. I'm a civic nationalist, for all colors and races and creeds. I almost want to believe him. At the very least, I would love to hear I'd like to hear the audio and be able to see for myself. I don't even know if there is an audio, but if there is, I'd love to hear it.
I would imagine there has to be.
Yeah. And I doubt there's going to be much momentum to release the audio, especially if it is. I think if we hear the audio, it's because it obviously backs up that he's wrong. I think if we don't hear the audio, that kind of lends itself to maybe he was true about what he said. But again, he said some other stuff before. This is definitely not a hill I want to die on, defending some authoritarian congressman.
Not even a little bit of mine out here.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about it. But I would be interested to hear, not so much for him, but that this is something media does, right? Like they'll for political points, they'll take something out of context, or even take the wording, but move the it's like the punctuation is the difference between helping your Uncle Jack off of a horse, your Uncle Jack off of a horse, or helping your uncle
helping your Uncle Jack, helping your uncle
your uncle, Jack, off a horse,
versus
or helping your Uncle Jack off a horse.
Right.
Maybe he was saying he wants his uncle to jack a horse off. But maybe he wasn't. Right. Maybe he was just saying his uncle was on a horse. We don't know.
Yeah, not willing to die on the hill that is Steve
Not
King.
Even close. But, zero interest. Already talked more about it than I want to.
Right, but you guys.
Speaking of Congress, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you guys deserve to know.
Who does?
The real ones who are still listening.
Yes. Anyone who's still listening to this, you deserve everything.
Yes.
Speaking of Congress people saying dumb things, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Sandy,
old
Sandy, old dancing Sandy, dancing Sandy. Which, by the way, there is no one. If anyone's watching this that is under the impression that anyone was upset about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez dancing in a video, no one was.
Poorly.
Nobody.
Poorly. I was upset.
Not even a. We talked about this weeks ago on the show.
Months. It was November.
Yeah, we talked before the holidays about this and thought it was funny and lamented. If you go back to that episode, we talked about how we missed that Sandy. She was more full in the body.
She looked more full of life.
She wasn't practicing socialism.
Happy.
She was just a happy-go-lucky kid who just was dancing on the rooftop
at Boston College.
And
poorly.
We were happy
poorly
for Sandy.
Dancing. Yes. Sandy.
It was a terrible, not good dancing at all. She did a bit of a twerk, which I liked, but the rest was not good. But she was enjoying life. And we are sad that she's now hating life and pushing socialism on everyone. That's what we said.
Right.
We were not upset at her dancing at all. And neither was
if
anyone.
anything, it gave us hope that Sandy.
Yes, we saw that there was someone in there who wanted to just love life and not starve everyone to death.
Right.
We thought that
Sandy. We were hoping for a last-minute Anakin Skywalker turnaround where he finds redemption.
Would be good.
Where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes back to being Sandy.
We'd like that here. Hashtag met Sandy.
Bring back Sandy.
So anyway, in an interview, so no one was upset about it. 0% of any subgroup was upset about that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in an interview with I'm not sure who, someone said something along the lines of, when people think of socialism, they think of the USSR, they think of communist China, they think of Ethiopia, they think of Venezuela, they think of Cambodia, they think of all of these terrible socialist nightmares where actual socialism, they got pretty darn close to real socialism. And not quite, but because some people lived. But they, they said people think of that when they think of socialism. Is that what you're trying to put? She went, oh, heavens, no, I would never try to do that. That's not real socialism. I'm thinking more along the model of the Nordic model, the Scandinavian countries like Finland and Norway and Sweden. And here's the thing with that, guys.
For anybody who doesn't know this already.
For anybody who doesn't know.
Although I feel as though our audience is very well informed already.
I would hope so. I would think most of our audience knows this, or at least sees where we're going with this. Right. But those countries have, they definitely have lavish welfare states. The reason that they have lavish welfare states that they can afford is because they have really, really, really free markets that are generating massive amounts of per capita income at even higher levels than in the U.S. Because their markets are free. For example, Denmark, which is they constantly talk about how the per capita wage in Denmark is way bigger than in the U.S., which is true. They have no minimum wage. There are zero wage laws in Denmark. There are wages are very heavily set within the sectors by different trade organizations, but that is not the government. The government's not forcing that. The labor market is so strong there because it's such a relatively freer market than in the U.S. that they're able to do that because it's really the workers. It's on the momentum is on the worker side because there's a shortage of workers there, and they're able to do stuff like that, which is what we say when we talk about wages. If you want to see wages go up, you make you enact policies or eliminate policies that in order to make the market so free and the job market so robust that the momentum is on the side of the employees instead of the employers. And that makes it so that wages have to go up and conditions have to improve without the force of law. And so, but they are, to say that they're more capitalist, we're all in various forms of mixed economies. We're all in this neoliberal nightmare where everyone is in some kind of a hodgepodge of central planning and free markets. The Nordic systems as a whole are more towards freer market-based economies and less towards, unfree command economies than the U.S. is. They're all mixed economies, but they're freer mixed economies. And, what she's talking about is that the welfare state is very grand over there. Yeah, absolutely. But the reason it's grand is because they do the opposite of what she wants to do when it comes to the actual market itself. So she said that. She's wrong. She's wrong.
She's wrong.
We miss Dancing Sandy.
We do miss Dancing. She also accused the president. She also accused the president of being racist, and when he was informed of this by a reporter, his retort was, "Who cares?" Which has absolutely nothing to do with the last one, but I thought that was just funny.
It is, and it's kind of, so people don't want to give Trump credit for being strategic because he often is not. And I remember watching this during the primaries. The Republican primaries, he would jump all over most of the candidates, right? So he would destroy Jeb Bush. He would destroy Scott Walker. He would absolutely ravage Rand Paul. He went after Rand so hard.
Bad.
He realized Rand represented something that no one else did there, and he went after him. He made sure Rand was garbage within the Republican Party before he could pose any kind of threat, because he realized he occupied a space within the party that no one else did, and he wanted that space to be gone.
Right.
And even if it meant hurting him temporarily among the Liberty Republicans, it would at least get rid of Rand Paul, and he wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. But he would attack these people. But then Ted Cruz, who was polling really well, he's like, "Oh, I'm friends with Ted. I like Ted. Ted's my friend." And for a while there, Ben Carson, he wouldn't touch Ben Carson.
No.
He loved Ben Carson. Ben was his best friend. Then Ben got up to a certain point in popularity and he started pouncing on Ben.
Sleepy Ben.
Sleepy Ben, low energy Ben. I've heard he's not even that great of a surgeon. Oh, and that religion thing, he's got some weird stuff with his religion, which, anyway. Didn't say that's not true, but he
could be true.
He was,
what's that? Those Seventh-day Adventists.
Yeah, well, he also believes that the pyramids were
for
grain silos, and he's got some
I don't know if that was
extracurricular weirdness stuff.
I don't think that was a religion thing. I think that was just that
was just his thing. Yeah, that's what I mean. He had some odd stuff going on there, but he Nicole Beard, jack off a horse. Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. But so he went after Ben Carson when it was strategic for him to do so, and it worked. Ben was knocked out pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
He waited until, I remember people saying, "Oh, he doesn't even want to be president. He wants Ted Cruz. He's clearing the field for Ted Cruz, and he's just going to back away. He doesn't even want to be president. He wants Ted Cruz to be president." Clearly not true.
Right.
But it was starting to look plausible because Ted Cruz at one point was all basically tied with him.
Yeah, it was really close about a month before,
the actual primaries began, right?
Yeah,
in Iowa.
And Ted was like, people were dropping off, and Ted, if he won like one or two states, he would have taken over, and then he would have been the nominee, and then we'd have President Clinton.
And Ted won in Iowa and was looking like he could do pretty well in the South, which was after New Hampshire, it was on to the South. And then all of a sudden you start seeing Trump start to turn it up right before Iowa. I heard there's some stuff. And it was always like, well, I don't know, but I've heard some things. And it was like, I heard it might be possible that he's not even eligible to run. I don't know about that. Maybe we need to look into that. He's not even eligible to run, maybe. I don't know.
Old Lion Ted.
And it was incremental, and then it became, I'm natural born, he's not natural born. And then it turned into, well, Ted said this and Ted said that. And he used legitimate attacks on his voting record, or when he would say one thing and then do another, whatever, which is easy to do with politicians. And not so easy to do when someone hasn't ever been in politics before.
When you've never had to place a vote that's public knowledge.
Right.
Hard to call you out on it.
Right, exactly. Nicole Beard said people are saying, exactly. Yeah, he said people are saying, whatever. And so he did that. And by the time you were in Super Tuesday, he was calling him Lion Ted Cruz and, wailing away on him, saying he wouldn't even vote for him if he got the nomination. He's such a disingenuous, but he was just all over him and completely trashed him once he was isolated. Right. And so I think that's what he's doing now. He sees Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He sees Rashida Tlaib, however you say her name.
Yeah, whatever.
He sees these people.
The brother marrier.
Yeah, exactly. No, that the brother marrier is the Somali. I forget.
Oh, is that the Somali?
Yeah, Rashida Tlaib is the Palestinian who said we're gonna impeach that MFer. Yeah. And Trump, who normally bashes people, someone has called him an MFer and said they're going to impeach him, and his response is, "Who cares?"
Well, that wasn't about
No, but in general, he hasn't really gone after these people.
No,
and I think the reason he hasn't gone after them is because he gets that they are right now they're clean slates. They don't have much of a voting record. They are young. They're social media savvy. Which he's acutely aware of who's social media savvy. And he's waiting for, maybe I'm giving him way too much credit, but he keeps winning stuff. So it's hard. I was assured that he was going to lose at some point because he's such an idiot and didn't know what he was doing. And he's he won the election. He was outspent 50-1 or whatever by Hillary. He saw the weaknesses in the Midwest, and he was campaigning in Minnesota and Wisconsin while his own campaign people were saying he was an idiot for doing it, and then he ends up winning. Yep. He has a weird innate understanding of how people perceive stuff, which is what he's done his whole life. I think he gets that if he goes after them right now, hard, like how he normally does, it's just going to make him look like the grumpy old white guy who's attacking
the young minority.
Yeah, female. Look at how he's going after Liz Warren, because he knows that she's dead in the water. She's this white woman that was pretending to be a native. Exactly.
Awful at social media.
Her optics are garbage. He made fun of the fact that she's telling her husband, "Thank you for coming." Why?
Thank you for being.
He's her husband. Of course, he'd be there. He knows who to attack, and I think he's holding his guns off for. He's gonna wait until they do stuff that isn't popular with their base,
right? And
then he's gonna crap all over them with that stuff that they can't defend. And in the meantime, he's not worried about an election for at least another year. There's nothing on the horizon anytime soon. This is a dead zone time for him right now. He can kind of let it ride. I think he's going to wait for them to do some stuff that's going to, is taxation theft? Yes, Dylan. Taxation is always theft. All taxation is theft. And all entities that are funded by taxation are illegitimate morally and in every other way. In case anyone didn't know that. So I think he's just keeping his powder dry until they, slip in something and then he can jump all over him. Is my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. And with the this isn't on the list, but the Democratic field right now is, I think, 6 people deep.
It's deep. It happened quickly. Who was the first one to declare? Kamala Harris, right?
No, hasn't officially declared it. The first one that declared is some Maryland representative or something like that, and he declared in 2017. So obviously...
Oh, and then Liz Warren, she was the first one. She was the first major.
She was the first Yes, she was the first major one.
With her beer live stream.
That was...
Look, I'm native. I'm drinking in my kitchen.
Right.
I tried to watch that because I was told it was so painful that it was funny.
It's awful.
It wasn't even funny.
I mean...
It kind of made me feel bad because here's a woman that's like 70-something trying to show how hip she is by drinking a microbrew in her kitchen.
It looked like she had never had a beer in her life.
In her entire life. And the thing is, like, if you're a, wine sipping metropolitan, former Harvard professor, embrace it. Like, that's who you are. Be that person. You're gonna look like an idiot. I remember Mitt Romney during his campaign going to Bass Pro Shop or whatever, and say, "Is this where I can hornswoggle me a hunting license?" I mean, he had no idea what he was doing.
Right.
And I remember
you've never been out there hunting except maybe on a private farm where you don't need a license.
Exactly. And he was asked if he hunted. And he said, "Oh, I've hunted for small game, varmints, if you will." And I first of all, the words "varmint" and "if you will" have never been used together before or after, and for good reason. But he was trying to be this everyman that literally no one thought he was.
Right.
And it was just making him look foolish. He's wearing these like tight dungarees. It's like, that's not who you are. You're this like really pious Mormon guy who's like a ruthless, hardcore businessman, and everyone knows it. Just be that. Like, that's why people are thinking maybe you might be better than Obama, is because you're like, this what. No one wants you to be like the everyman that sits down and has a beer with them or whatever. And the same thing with Liz Warren. We
did not need, still don't need Mitt Romney to be like us.
If Mitt Romney is ever similar to me, that makes me ask questions about me. Like, I have questions about me. Why am I like Mitt Romney?
Right.
So if only for that, if only to avoid me having an existential crisis, a crisis of identity, then please stop trying to hornswoggle Senator Romney.
Now, did you see what Robert O'Rourke, commonly known as Beto, or Beto, or Beto, Beto. Did you see his?
That's what we're going to call him now, Beto, because he's not Mexican in any way. He's not Spanish.
He's Irish as hell.
Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke. Did you see his live stream?
No. Was it as terrible and cringeworthy as Liz Warren's?
It was him getting a teeth cleaning at the dentist.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Because that's what I need to see.
That's what I want to see from my potential presidential candidates. Is you at the dentist. Look, I'm just like you. I go to the... Well, I hope you go to the dentist, man.
Like you, I too live stream my... But this would be like a bad... If Spin City was still on, this would be like a bad subplot for Spin City. Is that, one of the politicians is to connect with the people, is live streaming getting their teeth cleaned.
That would have been a really shaky plot.
That would have been an incredible... We're doing the neurodegenerative diseases thing now because I have some MS jokes I can do while we're on the air. So it was a very bum shaky plot.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm getting upset about that. I was the one talking about how many people should be killed at an airport. So I really have no place to talk for the next good 24 hours. But yeah, no. So it was So I did not watch that, nor am I going to, because I have a pimple popping and teeth cleaning and all that. I don't want to see it.
Right. Yeah. I don't need to see any of that stuff.
I don't need to see any of that. I don't even want to read a transcript of it. No. Because I know what it's about.
Right. Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke.
Live streaming it. It was quite possibly the worst live stream of the week, in the same week that Elizabeth Warren drank her beer.
That's a tough competition. Look, when you say what you want about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Rashida Tlaib or the one that married her brother, they get social media, right? Like, they're from that generation. So when they do their live streams and their whatever, it is genuine. Like, they are from the Snapchat generation. Like, right. that is natural to them. Like, it's not even natural fully to me. Like, I live stream stuff and I'm still like trying to produce it, and they like get that innate,
they just get on there and speak.
Yeah, they just get on there and like talk like they're talking to their friend or whatever, and put little cutesy, little
stickers and
emojis and
crap
and stuff like that. Like it's So I mean, but they get it, and it looks legit, whether you like it or not, whether you like them or not, whether you like that style of communication or not. They totally get it. It is entirely natural. It is more natural to them than like calling someone on the telephone. Like that is how they communicate with people. And so they just connect very well that way. Beto O'Rourke, who I believe is older than us, right?
He's around our age. I think he's probably like in his. I'm going to look it up. I think he's about 42.
Okay, so he's
much older.
He's much older.
Way older than us.
We're very young. We're extremely young. I barely remember 9/11.
72. He was born in 72.
Okay, so he is older than this. So but I mean, he's older, but he's somewhat with it, and he can somewhat do some of that stuff. Like when he did his live stream where he was like cooking eggs or whatever, it was pandery, but it still felt like you could believe that he'd be in his kitchen cooking eggs. There was nothing about that. What I made myself watch of that Liz Warren live stream, including when she thanked her husband for being there with her in their kitchen in their home, several years married. And then she did this other one where they were on a train and she like was doing a live stream, and she panned over to her husband that was asleep, and then she panned over to herself and like giggled. And I'm like, lady, it's not that. Don't.
Please don't.
This is not your space, and
No.
it doesn't. You're not. This is every bit not your space as the numerous Native American cookbooks you're featured in. And it was just terrible. So, which is why I say she's not going to win. But Trump knows he can dunk all over her
easily,
the same way he dunked all over Hillary, because so many people already hate both of them.
Yeah. So he's got Tulsi Gabbard, who just announced.
Yeah.
And many libertarians rejoiced, even though.
Listen,
I mean,
okay, great.
Is she the best out of the potential Democrats? Probably. But how many of you rejoiced when Jim Webb announced? Because he was definitely the best out of all the.
Out of the Democrats?
He was definitely the best out of the Democrats. He may have been the best out of most of them.
Jim Webb is someone that if he became president, I would actually breathe a sigh of relief. Because even though I don't agree with him on a whole lot of things, not the least of which is Obamacare, and I mean, he's a Democrat. He is what he is. But he is someone that I would be absolutely, thoroughly convinced and confident is going to actively dismantle, even more so than Trump is, actively dismantle military expansionism.
Yep.
Because he experienced it himself. His kid was in it. He hates it. He used to routinely get in Bush's face over it, not for partisan reasons, but just because he was dead set against it. When he was the Secretary of the Navy under Reagan, he was outspoken against it. Like, I mean, he is someone that I'd be like, you know what? I think we're really going to see like a major reduction. Like, I could see the U.S. leaving the UN under Jim Webb.
Yep.
Enough for me to vote for him? No. But Tulsi Gabbard is. I
mean, as a person who doesn't vote, yeah. But like, as somebody who, like, if somebody was a voter, and you had the option between Jim Webb and Donald Trump, like
it's like a strategic vote. Oh, I could totally get someone voting for Jim Webb.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, easily. Absolutely. I could totally get that
easily.
Tulsi Gabbard, she's against all those wars she keeps voting to fund.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, everybody's like, she's anti-war, and it's like, well. Yeah, but she keeps funding them. She keeps
voting for it.
She's voting for NATO. She's voting to fund the war. She's voting, like, how against these wars is she? Does she just talk that good game? Or
she's every bit as against it as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is against the ICE and Department of Homeland Security that she just voted to fully fund.
Right.
Of Donald Trump and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the one who is currently responsible for the fact that ICE is not funded is Donald Trump. And not because he's against ICE, but just to show how ridiculous the whole thing is.
Right.
She's demanding that ICE be fully funded right now.
Right.
Because she's so against it. So
we need to get rid of it, but I'm going to fund the crap out of it.
Right. Yeah. I hate it so much that it's going to, I can't wait to fully fund it so they can be in office and I can tell them how much I don't like what they're doing that I fund it. So I think Trump is waiting for her to say some more dumb stuff, but now prominent dumb stuff. She's now in office saying dumb stuff. He's also going to wait for her to become less popular because over time, now they're actual politicians. They're voting for stuff they said they weren't in favor of. They're cozying up with the people they attacked. She's no longer a candidate, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's now actually a politician. And I think in his time, he will smash all over her. And it will... She's got a following, man. So that will be a interesting locking of horns. But if I know anything about Trump, it's that up until now anyway, he has thoroughly dispatched any single individual who has gone after him. In terms of, just neutering their ability to message themselves. He phrases who they are. People say crooked Hillary. People say lying Ted Cruz. People say these things, and he's really good at framing every day we're talking about what Donald Trump wants to talk about. And it's led by the people who hate him the most. Jim Acosta went all the way down to the border to stand in front of a border wall and say, I don't see any illegals coming here, which was so kind of his point.
Right. Because there's a wall right there.
Because there's a wall there. Like, I'm against the wall. I'm against the wall, and I'm against immigration restrictions. What a stupid move.
That was so dumb.
You're so driven by trying to make Trump look bad, to own Trump, that you own yourself. And it happens over and 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 over again. Donald Trump is not president because... Donald Trump is president because of his ability to piss off people enough for them to help him win. And because they're so blinded by hatred of him. And so I don't see him... Maybe he's going to break that record. Maybe he's going to not continue that record, but yeah, I don't, but Sandy has a totally different audience. So that'll be a fun one to watch. They may just spend all their time talking past each other because
I think that they would probably talk against each other without ever saying anything about
or directly coming at adding each other or whatever.
She may go at him, but he'll just constantly be like, who cares? Who is that?
Yeah.
Stuff
it's actually a power play for him to ignore her because she serves a very, she's not necessarily unpopular broadly yet, but she will be soon. Like the longer she's out there saying her stuff, the more the mainstream right is going to dislike her. And the more you're going to have centrists that are going to have pause at her radical stuff. And so that will allow her to then just really be occupying a very small space, in which case, why does he even have to confront her? Right. Except in the abstract where he'll say, there are these young ones coming in that don't even support the laws anymore. And the Democrat, he would much rather be going after Nancy Pelosi all day. So he can frame Nancy Pelosi as the leader of the Democrats who has these crazy kids to have to deal with. And what a crazy thing for Nancy. She can't even control her own party. Why even directly go after Alexandria?
Right. So
that'll be interesting to watch.
So real quick, we're going to see if we can fit this in 2 minutes.
That's how long we have.
Gillette.
Yes,
the best.
Gillette.
The best a man
can get.
That's right. They put out a video, a very long commercial, asking if this toxic masculinity that's taking over America is the best a man can get.
Yeah.
Now,
did you watch it?
Oh yeah, I watched it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I watched it. And was it pandering to the left? Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The question I have is, of what they put in the video, were they wrong about anything?
So this is another one of those examples, guys, where no one is right except for me and Matt, which is often, most of the time, actually. Mm-hmm. This is being framed one of two ways. This is your Hegelian dialectic, or Hegelian, however you say that, dialectic, where you are presented with two options that are both terrible and wrong. The pro-Gillette ad side is saying, this is the message that America desperately is starved to hear, and you need to hear it. And then you've got the anti-Gillette side saying, this is an attack on the very basis of masculinity, and they want to emasculate us.
Are you trying to sound like Jordan Peterson?
No, but yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think subconsciously, yes.
Yeah, because you sounded just like him when you did
I'm not going to say it.
I'm not going to say it.
I don't care what they do to me. If it's a guy, I'm going to call him a guy. So I want to have him on my show eventually, guys. So I don't want to go too hard at him, but yeah, it's the very. You're right. It did sound like him, didn't I?
You did. You sounded exactly like him when you did that, and I was like, "Are you doing?" You sounded like him earlier when doing another thing, and I was like, "Are you trying to do Jordan Peterson?"
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, totally. That was pure Jordan Peterson. I hope everyone enjoyed it. So they're saying you're attacking, masculinity itself, and they're just trying to, it's a war on boys. And here's what I got from the ad, which means it's correct, because I said it,
right,
and Matt just said it too. If you watch the ad, if you take out all of the front-loaded, bias in politics that are so heavily intertwined with it, and just look at so if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. It's like, I think 2 minutes long.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's long for a commercial, but it's not 10 minutes. It's a couple minutes. You'll be all right. It shows a bunch of scenarios of men doing bad things, right? So one is a guy stopping a woman while she's trying to talk at a board meeting and saying, well, what she's trying to say is...
Man, that one was so pandering. God, that was dumb.
Right. So then another one where it's like a sitcom, but and there's like a maid that's like bent over doing something, and the guy comes over and makes like he's going to grab her, and then he's like, like that, and the male audience is laughing at his antics, where he's kind of, making like he's going to attack her, basically. And
lots
then there's
lots of children being bullied.
Yeah, there's lots of children being boys being bullied, being chased and called names. And the big one that people keep referencing is there's this line of guys grilling. They all have grills in front of them, and there are these two boys wrestling, and one of them is just on top of the other one and just wailing on him and really beating him up. Like, it's no longer.
But you only you only see that for like a second.
Yeah,
you only see the beating for a second. So like when I saw that, because I watched the video twice, and so when the first time I saw it, I was like, it was two guys wrestling. Yeah, it is boys will be boys. And then I went back and I watched it again. And I was like, okay, well that one is on top and hitting him.
Yeah,
but you see it for such a short time, you don't know what happened right before that.
Yeah, the first time that you see it, it's kind of like, yeah, it's two boys wrestling. There isn't really much wrong with that. But when if you look at it again, and then when he breaks it up, it is one just really just beating up the other one. And the guys are all sitting there going, boys will be boys, will be boys, will be boys. And so it gives all these different things, and it says, is this the best a man can get? And then it shows men stepping in and stopping these things from happening. Yeah. And stopping like the kid from hurting the other one and saying, no, that's not how we treat people. And another one where a guy is dragging his son over to stop some boys from bullying another boy, and his boy watches that. And then it cuts to, at each of these times where a guy is stepping in and stopping this other thing from happening, another boy is watching. And it's saying, because these boys will be the men, and we're showing them that there's a better way to be a man or something. This is the best a man can get.
Right. Nothing that they said in there was wrong.
Nothing, there was nothing, none of these obviously cartoonish examples of men doing something bad. None of these things were, all of these were things that it was good that they were being stopped. There was nothing, it was so true that it was basically a truism. And here's the problem with that. Not a problem, but here's the thing with that. No one disputes that those are bad things. I don't know a single person who says, yeah, it's a good thing for boys to like cyber bully a kid and then chase him home and threaten to beat him up,
right?
And corner him in an alley. I've never seen anyone say, yeah, it's okay to wrestle, but to the point where you're actually like beating up another kid who isn't even fighting back. I've never seen anyone say it's good to like make jokes about that you're gonna molest a woman. I've never heard someone say it's good to interrupt anyone, that it's good to stop someone from talking and eliminate their agency and talk on their behalf even though they don't want you to. No one is seriously saying these are good things. So then what was the point of making a 2-minute long ad about it?
Right.
So it was
virtue signaling to
exactly.
It was virtue signaling to the left about, look, we're Gillette, we care, because roughly 40% of the people who buy our products are women.
Are they?
I mean, I'm just guessing on that one, but they make.
Okay, I see. I didn't know the breakdown. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just guessing. Like roughly 40% of women are going to be buying Gillette razors because while many women have slowly figured out that men's razors are cheaper and work better, they are now buying men's razors, and they aren't they aren't designed for women, as they say, which means pink packaging, and now they cost more.
While an increasing number of men are growing out their beards to absurd, in my opinion, lengths,
right,
including myself occasionally.
And so the right led a lot by which was like Ben Shapiro,
Right.
Glenn Beck, Milo Yiannopoulos. Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos, a few others. They were all going hard against this video, and I watched it, and I was like, why? Why? They're virtue signaling to the women because they're trying to increase the sales that women are giving them, but they aren't actually saying anything that's incorrect.
Right. There's nothing. It is not what it was being. When I first heard it, I'm like, man, this ad must be garbage. Like, it must be like man bad, all man bad. And I went on and I'm like, there's nothing about this ad I find objectionable.
Right.
It would be the equivalent of if I made an ad saying, let's say I own a restaurant, and I go and I show these scenes of, the Klan attacking black people, or, people yelling at someone because he's Muslim. And I step in and go, hey, I'm against the Klan attacking black people. And I go over to hey guys, leave him alone. Just because he's a Muslim, he's not bothering you. Come eat at Spike's Chicken Shack. There's nothing I've said that's objectionable, but there's also nothing I've said that's particularly brave or groundbreaking. I'm just virtue signaling. I'm just saying, hey guys, I also am against racism and bigotry, and which there's nothing inherently bad about that, but there's also nothing terribly groundbreaking or powerful. Or it would be like during the civil rights era, someone coming in and going, I'm against slavery. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good that you're against slavery. Is there something you'd like to contribute to this current
So is
discussion?
pretty much everybody else in the nation.
So is almost everyone at this point, and no one who is in favor of slavery was just convinced by what you did.
Right.
So that's my big thing, is that I think Gillette just did what Nike did, which is that they injected
that was the
themselves
exact example I was going to do.
they injected themselves into something in the least controversial way they could, knowing that just their involvement in it would become controversial, that it wouldn't really hurt their downside much, because at the end of the day, how many people are truly going to be like, I'm not buying Gillette because of a YouTube video that I may or may not have even seen? And how long are they going to do that?
And odds are, most of the people who aren't going to buy Gillette anymore because of this video didn't see the video.
That's the other thing. Right. So, and they got a bunch of earned media from it. Like, I mean, Nike made billions from that. Yeah. And if you watch the Colin Kaepernick video, the Colin Kaepernick Nike video, it was so tame. Nothing in it could have been objectionable to any decent person.
It was just the fact that they used him.
Yeah, which is and it's why they did it that way, because if you really watch it, it's like, he didn't say, I'm kneeling now because the police are bad, which I'm with you, but it wasn't anything that any sane, decent person would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. Right. He was, in fact, most of it wasn't even about him. It was about, all these other examples of brave people or whatever. It briefly touched on what he did without even mentioning it by name. So here's another example of a large company doing a big, largely non-controversial virtue signal on a subject that is in and of itself incredibly controversial for some reason, and reaping the windfall of earned media from it. I mean, they didn't even put it on TV. It's on YouTube. Mm-hmm. We put stuff on YouTube. That's free.
This episode, which Spike has said blowing up a plane is better than blowing up an airport, more or less. More or less.
That there are less dead people,
right? If
you blow the plane up,
mathematically it makes more sense.
Mathematically preferable.
But
on YouTube,
this is on YouTube right now.
On YouTube.
They put it on Twitter. Right, this episode is on Twitter. They put it on Facebook. This episode is on Facebook. Well, okay, this episode may not be on Facebook.
The episode for now is on Facebook.
Right, it's on Facebook right now.
Right now.
No telling what's going to happen in about an hour.
No idea.
But yeah, I mean, the entire thing, it was virtue signaling. The right is getting pissed off over nothing because they see an attack on men in this one, and that's not what they did.
It really was
and
not.
Immediately, I went and I took my Gillette Mach 3 that I've had like razors for from 15 years ago because I don't have to shave often.
Didn't even bother going up to the Mach 4.
No. I might have a Mach 4. I don't even know what I have. And I immediately shaved down to the baby face that you see before you, just to say, I don't care. I'm not throwing away my Gillette because I've had it for 15 years. And if they ever stop selling whatever blades that I use, I may just stop shaving altogether, as bad as that will look.
Unless we are picked up by Dollar Shave Club, in which
Unless
case
we are
our
picked up by
opinion on
Dollar
this
Shave, right.
will change rapidly and in a 180-degree fashion.
In which Gillette did everything wrong, and everybody should sign up for Dollar Shave Club using the special promo code MUDDIED.
Exactly. Use the promo code MUDDIED, and you too will experience what it's like to shave without having the very basis of masculinity attacked at the root of the thing. So that was
only lobsters use Dollar Shave Club.
The very nature of lobsters is that they use the Dollar Shave Club because you get a razor every single time, and I'm not going to say it. It got worse as I kept doing it.
No, actually, it was pretty good all the way through. I liked it.
My Jordan Peterson is best when I'm not actually trying.
Right. When you're
I look forward to listening back on that part because I know in my hearing it in retrospect that was like peak Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that was about 1 hour 50 minutes. Just so you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that a lot. So I think we got everything. But yes, the takeaway from the Gillette is if you watch it and strip away all of the moth to a flame knee-jerk reactions everyone had to it, it was just a video saying like don't be a jerk and teach your kids not to be a jerk.
That was all it was.
It really was all it was, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So now that this show is over, let's talk about the future.
Let's talk about
Muddied
the
Waters
future.
Freedom. So I'm not having a guest tomorrow because of some scheduling issues. My episode is going to be on Friday, but so then chronologically your episode is first. Let's talk about your episode.
So my next guest is one of the rare occasions in which I don't talk about politics. I do offer. I'm like, hey, do you want to talk about politics? And she politely declines and says that she doesn't know anything about it. Is my dear friend from Nashville, Leah Burns, who she has done some backup singing with Hot Damn Burnett, who does the opening and closing song today. But she has a new single coming out on January 29th, and she is coming on to... So all of our listeners can learn a little bit about her and where to find her and find that single when it comes out.
Cool. And on a very special Shabbat episode, the Sabbath episode of My Fellow Americans, should I be doing my show on Shabbat?
Well, you're not.
Well, this one will be because she can't do it on Wednesday.
Is Shabbat Thursday?
No. Well, I'm not gonna have the show the same day as your day. I'm gonna air it Friday.
Right, but I mean, you're not doing it.
Well, airing it, then I'll go back to Wednesday next week. But so my next guest is Zuri Davis. Zuri Davis, the wunderkind of the Liberty Movement, who is now currently a reporter with Reason magazine and the Reason website. She is going to be on. She was very briefly an intern with Muddied Waters Media. And
she wasn't.
guys, by the way,
she was the editor. She was an intern. She was the editor in chief.
Very briefly, and guys, if you want to really get a leg up in your career,
especially in the political world,
take an unpaid position at Muddied Waters Media for like 48 hours, and
maybe 2 weeks,
right around the time that we start to rely on you because you've been here for more than a couple days. You're gonna get swept up by someone who's gonna offer you money.
That's 100% success rate.
100% success.
That's right.
Come and join the Muddied Waters team for the better part of a month.
Taylor Marie Anderson left us after about 2 weeks to take a great job at SFL. Zuri Davis was here for about 3 days before taking a job at Reason, and yeah. I've been afraid to hire anybody else on because I'm tired of them getting better jobs than me.
Well, but that's the thing. So it's one of those like you just want to have someone on, but you're just fast tracking them to something better.
I know.
I guess it's good. We're helping the economy. Yes,
sure,
in a small way. So Zuri Davis is going to be on.
But we have yet to help our economy.
Yeah, our local economy. We've been shipping our jobs. We're the NAFTA of jobs, I guess.
Of political media jobs.
This is the worst trade deal of all trade deals.
Your Trump is just not good though.
No, my Trump is terrible. My Jordan Peterson, much better. Because he's shrill. I'm good at being shrill. So she's going to be on. We're going to be talking about stuff. I'm really excited to have her on. I've been trying to get her on for the longest time, but she's just very busy being paid well at Reason. So going to have her on. And then next Tuesday is the Muddy Waters of Freedom again.
That's right.
Where we will be talking about all of the craziness that has happened from the very moment that this show ends.
All of the ripples that we have created today.
The aftermath.
The aftermath of these ripples moving outward that have now shaped the universe that we all know and love.
The butterfly effect that is this show.
That is this show. We will then talk about how we have now affected another week.
On Tuesday. And then, so have a great week. Yeah. And I look forward to watching The Writer's Block on Thursday. I look forward to watching my own show, My Fellow Americans, on Friday. And then we'll see you here again on Tuesday. So thank you guys again for joining us for another just action-packed episode of gaff-tasticness that I did on the Muddy Waters Freedom. And where we're going...
Well, no, we still have to do the social media stuff.
Oh, crap. Go ahead.
Yeah. So remember, you can find this and every episode at muddiedwatersoffreedom.com. You can also find us at facebook.com/muddiedwatersoffreedom. You can find us on Instagram at muddiedwatersoffreedom. You can find us on Twitter at muddied_waters, or you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/c/muddiedwatersmedia.
Yes.
So happy to be able to say that one.
Finally.
That's right.
It's no longer /channel/ some
whatever
nonsense.
Right.
Yes.
No, it's youtube.com/c/muddiedwatersmedia.
Muddied Waters Media.
Very happy about it.
I am equally happy about that. So check us out there.
That's right.
On all of our media.
Check us out anywhere that you want on any of these wonderful social networks. And
and where we're going.
We don't need roads.
At the end of my life, there wasn't a light at the end of the tunnel. There just was a sign, it said you're not coming. I thought, oh no, what the hell have I done here? Long ago my mother told me a bit about purgatory. It's where people like a father would be, stuck for eternity. Looking down at my dead body, a flat line dancing across the screen. It wasn't a dream, I started to freak out. They're not gonna let me into heaven. Many struggle with the rules, the books, the fantasy undertones. It's also a big part of a comic's fit. At least we'll have lots of laughs and wit. Outside the not-so-pearly white gates, it's closer to a dirty shade of gray. There's nothing to eat, there's nothing to drink. No need for restrooms, no need to sleep. I'm not gonna lie, it's terrible out here. I give anything for a drag. Just one drag, just one drink. How the hell did all my friends get